Well, firstly, I'd actually applied at undergrad and didn't get in. I had my interview, and I interviewed at Christchurch, which I didn't know at the time was also like one of the, in theory, one of the kind of scarier colleges to interview at. I had an amazing time, but didn't get in. But it was still always something I had in the back of my mind, like, oh, one day. It had just always been a dream, like I'd sort of fallen in love with Oxford from like books I'd read, and the idea of being able to study at this kind of institution was just, and it never really left my mind, even though I did my undergrad at Warwick and had a great time. Then when I was applying for my masters, I'd been working at the UN for that a year, doing an internship, and they'd offered me a job as a contractor, but I knew I wanted to have a masters and I wanted to kind of be more qualified so I could have a proper job, and not be a contractor forever. So I applied to SOAS for gender studies and to Oxford for women's studies, and they're really different courses. So the SOAS course was much more in line with the work I was doing at the UN, so it was kind of more in the development world, whereas Oxford was much more in the humanities. But I also had this thing in the back of my mind where I was like, do I know for sure that I want to work for the UN? Because I was thinking about acting and writing and all those things, and I thought, I also just know that if I just feel like Oxford has opportunity. That was just the word that kept coming to my mind. It's like, it has opportunity. And whether it means that I carry on down that same path, or whether it means I try something new, I just think there's so much waiting for me to discover. So, I mean, it was never really in question. I was always going to choose Oxford, but I think I was like, I gave it the thought. I really sort of went, SOAS has this to offer. But yeah. So there were lots of reasons. It was, I guess, childhood dream, and also what it has to offer in terms of, opportunity. Oh, yeah. I mean, first thing that came to my mind was just getting on my bike from Norham Gardens, where I lived, with my friends in our formal gowns and heels, cycling to Formal Hall and having those amazing long dinners where you meet people and you talk to people that are from such a different world to you. Also, all the plays. I think I did 5 or 6 plays just in a year, different roles, and getting so involved in that, and my academic advisor saying, what are you doing? I was like, don't worry, I've got this. And I did have it all under control. But just having that chance to really dive into that. But also just being in Oxford and like having classes and tutorials in these beautiful rooms like the one we're in today, and properly being able to just, do what I love, like read. And it was all to do with feminism and women and gender equality, and it was just like this space where I was able to dedicate everything to doing what I loved. Yeah. I think there's so much of it now where I think that interview process when I was 18 and was coming from like this school in Northampton, I think there was a disconnect between what I knew from my school and what I suppose the interview process might have required, like just in terms of, I think even just feeling prepared for that, in my mind, if I could speak to someone like an 18-year-old now, I'd encourage them, if it's possible, to try and have those practice interviews. Like, I know all the private schools do that kind of thing, and that wasn't an option for me, but I think that, who knows what difference that might have made. But I think also it's just about not feeling that you don't belong, like knowing that you have as much right as anyone else to be there, if not more, because actually if you're from a state school and you find yourself getting those top grades and getting into Oxford, then you've, in a way, I think you possibly, no one deserves a place more, I don't mean that, but you've gone through a lot more to get there. So not feeling like I'm from this school or I'm from this town or village or whatever, and therefore it's embarrassing, just holding your head high and knowing that you've got something really unique to bring. I think that is a really important thing, because it's so easy to kind of dim your light and feel that, you don't know what anyone's talking about when they speak about these schools that they all went to. But I also found, maybe it was different as a postgrad, but I didn't really feel that, I didn't feel too much that sense of not belonging. I really did just think, I'm here and I want to make the most of it, and I don't want to let anyone talk me out of that. And they didn't. And I think if you go into it with that attitude, then people will treat you accordingly. So just, yeah, hold your head high and know that you're there for a reason, and just, you know, do everything you can to make the most of that. And when you're still at school, just, yeah, knowing knowledge is power. So take all the knowledge you can, even if it's just asking a friend to like interview you, just so you've had a practice of speaking about your subject, I think is really, really important. Yeah. Yes. So, because my women's studies was interdisciplinary, so it was languages and history and philosophy and English lit, it was all of these different subjects. So I kind of knew that I wanted to bring everything together in terms, when I was trying to decide what to write my thesis on. At first I thought I wanted to write about kind of identity for Congolese women, because I just spent a summer in the DRC. So I had this idea, but couldn't quite find a supervisor. And I also, there was something about it, I thought, I want to be a bit more creative with this. And I quite like writing things not necessarily in the traditional way. And I was very interested at the time, and still am, in kind of the mechanisms of food, and how food, especially in Caribbean culture, can be a means of reclaiming power, I suppose, among women. And Lemonade, Beyonce's album, had just come out, which kind of looks at that as well. And I had all these things in my mind, and I just thought there's something in this that I could kind of trace the journey of food as a means of resistance. And I could start, you know, I was trying to decide where to start. I started with the Aunt Jemima figure who came at the end of slavery, and bringing it right to the present day, which was Beyonce's Lemonade. But then, of course, because Beyonce was in the title, I had to go through a whole process of persuading people that this was a valid topic and it was academic enough. But once I kind of made my case, they got really on board with it, and it was so thrilling to be able to like literally bring Beyonce to life and look at how she's carrying on this whole lineage of, yeah, women who have resisted through cooking and through food and through, you know, uplifting themselves, making a better social and economic situation for themselves. It was so exciting. And then to be able to like get such a high first from that, when I had to persuade them in the first place, and I think they've said at the time it's one of the highest firsts they've ever given. It was so thrilling, and so I'm very proud of it. I want Beyonce to read it one day. So, as an actor, I was an actor first and foremost, and obviously loved that, and had just started working after graduating, done a couple of plays, and it had been brilliant, and I was really enjoying what I was doing. But I guess I always had that thought of, there are stories that I want to see told, and they're not necessarily being told, but not thinking I could ever be someone to tell them. But then, as lots of things I think happened during the time of the pandemic, COVID happened, and I think I was about to go into a job in the West End, which, you know, got shut down. And I was kind of just left thinking about those stories again, stories that I want to see told. And suddenly, not working as an actor, I was still working for the UN, but not working as an actor, I sort of thought about how I could do something to bring those stories to life. So I started making a short film about, kind of inspired by the life of Dido Elizabeth Bell, who was the first ever biracial heiress, and she kind of grew up in the 18th century and has a really fascinating story in her own right. Got inspired by that and started making this short film. And then along the way realised that I have quite a few other ideas, and it's not just about films, but also how can I bring together, I guess, it was a platform for empowerment and celebration of marginalised voices, especially Black, biracial women and girls. But bringing that all together, so it kind of made sense to found the company just to put everything under one roof. So had about 3 films in the first year, and then also kind of a fund which was for different projects which would make an impact on a small scale, like in the community around you. So just had 3 different grants of £500, but with the idea being that often it feels so hard to know where to start, you know, and that can be overwhelming. So you just think, I don't know what to do, so I'm not going to do anything. Whereas this was specifically saying it doesn't have to be, you don't have to change the world, just maybe you change the lives of 5 people in your community. And that was so incredible seeing that come to life. And from there, yeah, I don't even know how many films we've made now and there. It's taken on a whole new lease of life. I think I never imagined it would. Wouldn't have thought I'd still be running a company, among all the other things. But yeah, I'm very proud of it. Very proud of it. Yeah. That film, that's the first film that I wrote and directed as well as produced, 'cause everything else I just produced. Um, and it was born out of true events. So I lost my uncle and then I lost a friend, directly a year apart. My uncle was just before that first lockdown, and my friend Simon was in the middle of between the second and the third. And for both of them, because of the situation we were in, we couldn't grieve, we couldn't go to a funeral for either of them, and I just got really, I was just lost, really. It was a really bad time, really a difficult time. But I was still living in Oxford at the time and lived near Hinksey Lake. And on one of those daily walks that you're allowed to do every day, I was walking past the lake and I just had this sense, like it honestly felt like someone was just talking to me and saying, just get in. And so I did. And it was really cold, it was February or March, but I felt it start to unlock something in me. And it became a process of I would swim every morning. And by doing that, I started to be able to kind of dislodge. I remember feeling like I had something in my chest and I couldn't get it out. And it started to dislodge, and then I guess I began to kind of make more sense of what happened, because with suicide there's so many unanswered questions that it doesn't feel like a normal grief process. And I started to feel better, and I think that made me think, I never saw a narrative about what happens after you lose someone to suicide. I always saw suicide as the end of the story, like the big dramatic finale. If you think of films like A Star Is Born or shows like 13 Reasons Why, it didn't speak to how that experience really felt for me. So I wanted to make something that would be hopeful. I'm also an ambassador for Papyrus, which is the UK's national charity for suicide prevention for young people. I wanted to work with them. I wanted to make something that would not only remind people who are struggling that there is hope, but also there would be a comfort to people like me who are left behind, because actually they're statistically more likely to go on to take their own lives as well, which is something people don't know about. Yes, I had the idea and it happened quite quickly, but realised I could sort of adapt that story and wrote this film, 54 Days, about a young woman who starts wild swimming after she loses her dad in the film. But also realising there's a whole narrative around black people swimming as well. Like there's the statistics that 95% of blackouts in the UK don't swim. 95%. And just thinking about that, and it's not even about, it's a safety thing, if nothing else, but it is also what that did for my own mental health at that dark time, and to think that that's so inaccessible to so many people. So just wanting to also challenge that narrative. And I worked with Soulcap, who are an inclusive swimmer brand, and Dry Rope, who do the Dry Roads, and an amazing wellbeing charity called Seabirds, just working also at a community level, and they all helped make the film. And it's gone on to travel the world. I can't even believe it. And I had Celia Imrie, played like the kind of person that helps me at the lake. Even working with her, she's such a British icon as an actor. And whole amazing cast. Yeah, it's been really special. So important, because the year that it was just before the Tokyo Olympics, and Alice Dearing was the first ever black woman to represent GB as a swimmer, and this was all happening. And Alice is, I don't know if her title is ambassador, but she sort of works with Soulcap, the swimwear brand, a lot anyway. And that was the cap that she wore, and then they said that they weren't approved for competition right before she was about to go to Tokyo and compete. And of course she's still going, and that representation was amazing, but it does just seem to sort of say, you can go, but you have to do it on our terms, or you can go, but you don't really belong here, because... And one of the main reasons that so many black girls stop swimming is because of what it does to hair. Like, that was the main reason I stopped swimming as a kid. I just couldn't be bothered to have my hair that I used to relax and make straight. I didn't want to deal with that like twice a week. So even that, it just sort of says, this isn't quite a space for you yet. So I think, obviously, that no one really anticipated that it would be such a huge furore, and it really was. And it was actually amazing for Soulcat because they got so much attention suddenly, and they'd been, they were already a brilliant brand, but they weren't so well known, and suddenly they were global. And I think FINA, who kind of are the aquatic organisation, saw that, and it meant that they had to reconsider. And so when they approved them, it's a hand extended, isn't it? It's just saying you belong and you're here. And the fact that Alice has competed now, and she's so incredible, I've got to know her quite well, and she's like honestly one of my heroes. But just seeing her and knowing that these caps are now approved, and knowing what that means for like the 5-year-olds or whoever that are going to come through as the next generation, is so important. Representation is everything, and it might not seem like a big deal, but it's that seal of approval at the highest level. So I think it's really significant. So it's Gender Equality Advisor, which means that I look at all of the projects we work on across the division and make sure that we're thinking about people of all genders, thinking about how we can be inclusive, just kind of having that eye over them. But then lately, I've been able to transition it a bit to have some of my own projects. So had a project that we piloted for a year last year with the Premier League Charitable Fund, which is called Change Makers, and it's essentially a leadership and mental health programme for school-age girls, so girls aged 11 to 18. And really the idea is that we want to reach out to those people who would never put their hand up and say, pick me. So really, like, how can we extend the hand to those who wouldn't opt in and just kind of say, look, you've got the UN here and you've got the Premier League, and we want to work with you. So they use sports, and then we designed the curriculum, so it's a leadership kind of development program, thinking about, what are your skill sets, what do you have to offer, also working on wellbeing practices. We piloted it to around 1,000 young female identifying people last year, and looking to scale that up, just working with different clubs. It was absolutely incredible. It was International Women's Day 2021 or 2022 last year, when we got a big group of people in the room for the first time. It must have been 2021, and had this amazing empowering day, seeing them, because it was the first time I'd actually really got to see the beneficiaries as well, because it'd been sorted during COVID. They've been doing it in their various clubs, and I got the sense of how incredible it would be. So actually I've got the idea, and I've been speaking a bit with people here about it, but doing an Oxford summer school maybe, so we could bring them and they could get a taste of also Oxford University. And really it's for those that would not dream of coming somewhere like this, and using sports and also kind of leadership and building the next generation. Honestly, I got this email, I think it was like just before Christmas, that you've been nominated, and they wanted some further info from me about, I guess, what I've been doing. I was like, okay, but then I sort of forgot about it. You don't think anything of it. And then one morning, like months later, I'd honestly forgotten it even happened. I woke up and I saw I'd been like added to this, I think it's like a Slack group or something. I had an email, like I was in a Forbes 30 under 30 Slack group. I was like, what? And forgot about it. I went to work, went about my day, and then I started getting all these messages from people, because then I guess the list had been made public, and I was just like, what? I can't believe this. It was a genuine shock. Now, I don't think I'll ever be as shocked again, because maybe once you have something like that, maybe you become more used to it. I don't know, but I was shocked. I couldn't believe it. But yes, that was on the entertainment list. That's for services, I guess, to the entertainment industry. So my acting work and my production company. And it has been really incredible. I haven't been able to, they've had summits and things they've invited me to, but I haven't been able to make any of them just because I've been busy. But I'm hoping to go to one of, they have them all around the world, and you meet the other listers and stuff. But it certainly feels like a real honour. I'm very proud to be able to say that. Wow. Definitely 54 days, because it's an honour to my Uncle Delroy, and to Simon, and also because it feels like it's changed a bit of a narrative around mental health and swimming. That has to be one of them, and I didn't ever expect it would be taken to like these Oscar qualifying festivals, and so I think that's one of them. I think the Black and British Impact Fund, just because to be able to actually see ideas become reality and know that I was a part of helping that happen, and just simple but incredible ideas like a Caribbean Meals on Wheels for elderly people in Newport, South Wales. That's so specific, but just meant that elderly people had the food they liked brought to them and they couldn't make it themselves, and that is so moving to me. And then I'd have to say my book, because I just can't believe that this book, which is inspired by the generations of women who've come before me, my family, and also women that I've learnt about, and women that history has kind of glossed over and forgotten about, and to be able to say like these lives mattered so much and they connect to everything that we're doing today, and hopefully that becomes a resource that maybe hundreds of years in the future people will read and know about these women and take inspiration for their own lives from them, I'm really proud of that. I've got a new short film that I'm making, which I've adapted from the last chapter of my book, which is called Daughter, and that chapter is kind of it's a letter to the daughter I hope I'll one day have, and it's a bit different to the rest of the book. It kind of stands alone, and it's just this is the life I hope for her. So I'm working with Gugu Batharoy, who's so incredible. She's going to play the lead in that. So working on that, trying to get that finance and get that off the ground. My book comes out in America in 2024, so things are starting to ramp up for that, which I'm so excited about. I'm going to go out there and do the whole US tour, I guess, publicity tour. And then trying to get the Premier League Changemakers project. I want to get that like from the pilot to, I'd love to see that being just a project that kind of runs for the next 3 years or something, so working on that. I have a TV series I'm writing, which I'm very excited about, but I can't say too much about. And then auditioning for the next acting job. It's so funny, as soon as you finish one, you're straight back to the auditions for the next, so working on that as well. So lots of different things, and travelling, lots of film festivals for the various films, and 54 days, but some of the other projects as well. And I want to have a holiday. I want to have like a holiday where I just go somewhere and I don't have a phone. Can you imagine how liberating that would be? That's on my agenda for this year. I'm going to do it. I have to check back in and make sure I've done it. Definitely, it's confidence. I think I was confident, but it's something about it. I'm secure in myself. I think maybe before my confidence was quite like, it felt quite sort of high. I don't really know how to explain that, but I think I have a grounded confidence now, just from being here and trying all of these things. Some of them I didn't know if they'd work out, like the acting thing. I didn't know how it would be to do all of those plays, but I wanted to try it, and just having that space where nobody really questions you. No one looks at you and says, why are you doing that? I really felt like I could try anything when I was here, and there was the mechanism to do so. And I think I've taken that with me now. I'm not afraid of failure, weirdly, which I know might seem unusual, because lots of people that go to Oxford are very successful in I don't necessarily like that word, but I think it's given me a sense of I'm sure of myself, and I carry that with me. I think the opportunity, I keep going back to this word, but it was a place of opportunity for me. I didn't know, doors have been opened to me that I would never have dreamt of, circling back to where we started, talking about where I went to school and where I'm from, and seeing how proud my family are of me. It's actually, even we had a family barbecue at the weekend, and just being able to share like things that have come from my book came out of my dissertation that I would never have written if I'd gone to SOAS. That would never have happened. I was able to write my book in my academic advisor's office here. You know, it's a space that brings me back, and I feel like I will always have a special relationship with the city, but also with the institution. I really hope to. I've got so many things I want to do one day. Like, if I ever make so much money, I want to like start a scholarship in my name, like a Stormzy type scholarship. That's what I'm going to do. The Catherine Joy Scholarship. It's going to be for young black women, and they're going to be from a state school. And I want to do that one day. You know, I want this to carry on. It's a place that has given me so much. Yeah, I'm so grateful to everything that's come from studying here.